Hello, and welcome to the Good News from the Corner podcast. I'm Jay, I'm your podcast host, and I'm also the rector at St. John's Episcopal Church in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm glad you found us. I'm glad you're here. Stay tuned for sermons, lectures, and more good news from the corner of Central and Greer. My friend and mentor Reynolds Cheney once taught me that the only difference between a major and a minor surgery is that a minor surgery happens to somebody else. I want you to know that I appreciate your prayers and your communication this week as I continue to recover. I had knee surgery on Tuesday, and I'm feeling pretty good. And I'm glad to be here with all of you this morning. It is rare for a priest to be on the receiving end of prayers and phone calls and lovely food, so I thank you. Looking back on it now that I am a parent, it's hard to believe that I was the age of my children then, but the O.J. Simpson trial was the immediate event of the century. Those of you who are at least 40, do you remember that? It happened in the better part of 1994 and 1995. Every part of what became a three-ringed circus was broadcast over cable news. It must have been the only thing on our minds for the better part of a year. We're still talking about it 20 years later. Well, maybe I'm only still talking about it 20 years later. That year we all sat glued to our televisions watching CNN as this seemingly impossible series of events unfolded before the nation's eyes. The trial of the century, the headlines declared. For 8 months, if you recall, we watched Judge Lance Ito and defense attorney Johnny Cochran and the best criminal attorneys money could buy working against the prosecutors, Marcia Clark, if you remember, and Christopher Darden. It was really billed as this sort of battle between the forces of good and evil. We, the media, and I don't know who started it, but we all had this mindset like we were watching conflict in the Colosseum. Y'all remember all of those details. I think our attention is probably now too fractured by the internet and the instant notifications on our cell phones to sustain our corporate attention on one topic for so long. But that year, everybody watched this trial. And when word came that the verdict was in, everything stopped for a moment. An estimated 100 million people watched or listened to the verdict's announcement. That day, long-distance telephone call volume declined by 58%. The trading volume on the New York Stock Exchange decreased by 41%. And even water usage decreased as people avoided using the bathrooms. So much work stopped that day that the verdict came in. It is estimated that we lost $480 million in lost productivity. Congressmen that day even canceled press conferences with Joe Lieberman, if you remember him, telling reporters, not only would you not be here, but I wouldn't be here either. But it wasn't just the adults. I'm not sure who thought of it or who authorized it, probably nobody. But that day, as the verdict was announced, it was lunchtime in my little elementary school. Somebody took the lunch lady's radio from the kitchen and brought it out to the cafeteria, and I'll never forget, the radio was on top of one of those massive deep freezes, 12 feet long. If they needed more French fries or pizza sticks, it was going to have to wait. In this tiny cafeteria on the other side of the country from this courtroom in LA, every child and every adult was leaning in towards the radio, waiting for the outcome. There was chatter and analysis, and all of us kids would lose interest for a while, but when the moment came, you could have heard the proverbial pin hit the floor. We, the jury, find the defendant There was a year of buildup leading to this moment, and I'll never know, but I suspect our reaction would have been the same if the verdict went the other way. There was an eruption of applause and whoops of joy as the defendant was found not guilty. It was cathartic. We were children. I'm not sure that we were supposed to even be listening to something like this. And the anticipation was impossible for us to take any longer. There was a moment when the rest of the world hung in the balance, and to be relieved of this tension was the most powerful thing that we could have ever possibly imagined. I don't know what we were cheering for the verdict so much as it was the relief of being out of this moment of tension, this moment of indecision. On this first cold morning, as we anticipate the holidays ahead, we hear these texts, these three texts on the final Sunday of the church year. The church calls this Sunday, the final Sunday of the year, Christ the King Sunday. And we end the year in what feels like a bit of a precarious place. A vision of judgment in Daniel, a strange greeting in the book of Revelation to John, and in John's Gospel, Jesus in Pilate's headquarters just before his crucifixion. Daniel's vision is like a courtroom drama unfolding. The Ancient One appears, seated in a fiery throne, tens of thousands, thousands of thousands, all there attending him and serving him. When the Ancient One decides, the court will sit in judgment and the books are opened for the accounting. And in the moment, the fate of mankind will be read from the Ancient One's book. Something miraculous happens. From a distant point of light in the heavens, rushing at the speed of light, one like a human being comes flying into the frame, saying, "Stop! Do not pass judgment on them. Give them to me. I will speak for them. I will be responsible for their well-being, and I will pay the price of their faults." Just before the Ancient One drops the gavel to begin the proceedings, the One is presented to the Ancient One, and he is given dominion and glory and kingship. As Christians, this One, like a human being coming into the courtroom to intervene for us, we know who this is, right? This is Jesus. Jesus is given supreme authority over humanity, and his kingship is unlike any the world has ever seen. In John's Gospel, Jesus has been brought to Pilate with charges against the state leveled at him. The Jewish officials stay outside of his headquarters to maintain ritual purity, but Pilate has now come back into his headquarters, having met with the officials, and he presents the charges that are leveled at Jesus. And it is a fascinating exchange. Pilate is a young man, a man with a promising career, a representative of the greatest empire the world has ever known. And he could not help but to imagine or think about Jesus of Nazareth in terms of political power. This man who stood before him, brought to him by the leaders of his own community, a man who refused to answer questions, a man who spoke in riddles, a man who would not confirm or deny that he was the King of the Jews, calling his teaching and his ministry a kingdom not of this world. Are you the King of the Jews? To answer in the affirmative is to commit a crime against Rome. There is no true king but the emperor of Rome. To say yes is to be executed. Pilate pushes Jesus for clarity in his answer. So, you are a king. And Jesus answers, I come to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice. What is this truth that we know in Jesus? Here's the thing. We are incapable of making our lives exactly what we want them to be. We are incapable of making right decisions about things as small as what we will eat or drink, on up to how we will treat those that are closest to us. We have the best laid plans that fall before we leave our beds in the mornings. And then we judge ourselves and others with an absolute ferocity when we fail to do the things we imagine a more capable version of ourselves could do. This is bad news. We, though, are not people of bad news. We are a people of good news. So this final Sunday of the church year, before we begin our Advent Vigil, before we look for the star of Bethlehem and the Christ child born in the manger, the good news, beloved, is that our fate is not in our own hands. The good news is it is not up to us. The good news, it has never been up to us in the first place. The truth we know in Jesus is that he has intervened on our behalf, not just for ours alone, but he has intervened on behalf of the whole of God's creation. And by his saving intervention, we do not belong to ourselves alone, and our fate has been sealed by Christ our Lord. You might be saying to yourself, well, that's cute, but the exception proves the rule, and I am less worthy than every single person who's ever lived. I am the exception that proves the rule. I am beyond the saving power of God. If you are thinking this today, let me speak to you plainly. No. No. The truth is that Christ faces his judgment in Jerusalem, and he has taken everything about you and me, our hidden hurts, our secret struggles, and he takes those things with him to the cross. Our salvation comes from no man, no president, no economic policy, no earthly power or principality. The good news is Jesus' promise is for you. Come, Alpha and Omega. Come, King of Kings. Our trust is in you alone. In the name of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Peace. Good morning. Wonderful to see each of you here today. We have a couple of announcements to share, but I would also like to call Harvey Kay to come forward and bring us up to speed on stewardship. I suppose you've seen the thermometers around campus. We're making good progress. So Harvey, come on up.
Well, first of all, the good news is I'm the last stewardship speaker, so you don't have to endure this anymore. I wanted to, first of all, thank all of the committee that we went and the McAllisters for helping Emily and I kind of run all this. And so you've heard from all our speakers about why they give and their motivation and the biblical reasons we all give and reasons we're stewards of our church. I'm not going to do that because I agree with everything everybody has said. I wanted to talk more about a business approach to it. St. John's is run as a business. If y'all don't know, the vestry has got to look at the money we bring in, and we have to budget, and that's why we pledge. So they have some idea. I mean, it's great if you just give a gift. You know, they love money. They'd love to have the money so we can take care of our church and take care of ourselves. But the pledge gives us an idea of where we're going and what we can do and what we can't do. Okay, so anyway, where we are right now, we're at 1.2, which is not our goal, but it's better than we've been the last 4 years. So applause, that's great. When we first started this and we had our first meeting, we were talking about it, one of the numbers that stuck out to me, however, was our participation number, which has been going down, down, down. Now, 2 years ago, we were at 157, and then last year it went down to 130. of people pledging, and it was like, what in the world is going on? And I think a lot of that was COVID, and COVID did horrible damage to all organizations, and our church especially. But this year we're up to 155, and I think we're going to end up in the 60s or maybe even 170. So we have become the stewards of our church, of ourselves, and our family, and we have done it together. So all of y'all, you guys are the reason this is working. I think I'm really preaching to the choir. I think probably 99% of the people in this room have already pledged. But if you haven't, please pledge. And if you know someone who hadn't, please get them to pledge, so we have an idea of what we're going on. So everyone in the room, thank you for being stewards of each other and stewards of our church.
There's a number of important things happening in the life of this parish. In the announcements, save that date. We will have Dr. Luke Timothy Johnson, one of the foremost New Testament scholars in the country, here with us at St. John's in January. You see those dates. Registration is not open yet, but go ahead and save that date and plan to be with us. Also, next Sunday, there are a number of things happening, and Dr. Snyder can talk to us about the end of the day, and we'll work our way forward.
Good morning, everyone. 3 quick things. So 1 week from today, we will observe our monthly service of Choral Compline once again, sung by the Schola Cantorum. Again, for those of you who haven't had a chance to attend this beautiful liturgy, it's a very spacious, quiet, meditative liturgy with lots of silence, lots of beautiful music from the Renaissance, sacred motets in Latin, and chant. That is 1 week from today on the 1st. And it's not too early to get lessons and carols in the calendar. I think that's on the 15th. And finally, I'd like to thank our brass quartet for enriching our service of Christ the King Sunday. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Doctor. Next Sunday is the first Sunday of Advent, so we have a full offering throughout the season. Please notice is it in the leaflet or in the pew, Avi? There is somewhere in front of you a beautiful little illustrated card that is also your registration if you intend to join us for the Advent Wreath Making Workshop, which will be next Sunday at 9:15. This is an interfaith, intergenerational offering. So I suppose anybody could come, but we at least have that in common, right? So if you have young children, great. If you raised your kids 60 years ago, great. It's for all people. So please plan on joining us on that occasion next week. We will also send out the Posada. If you remember last year, we had a great outpouring of support, and we needed 2 donkeys to bring the Christ child into the city. One of those has a name. The second has not been named. So if you can find a pink index card, we would love to open up a vote for the second name of our Posada donkey. So submit those next week. Avi, is that the plan? Do it today. If you know this donkey's name, heck yeah, Ned, we're going to get it done. So put it in the plate today if you have a vote. If not, you got a week to think on it. A couple other things to be aware of. The Angel Tree Project. You see this beautiful handout in your order of worship. There's information available at the QR code. Sign up and participate. And also, please note that we will have the holiday open house drop-off and reception on December the 8th at 3 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. And the Festivities Committee has asked me to invite the young people of the parish, particularly our children. We need help making cookies. So if you have a cookie recipe, or if you just want to throw one in the cart when we're with your parents at the Superlow, bring cookies, and we'll hang out together on the 8th for that reception. There'll be food and beverages available, but trying to get our young people involved as well. I was away a week, and I don't want to miss anything else. I think that is what I'm supposed to say today.
Thanks for tuning in today.
You've been listening to the Good News from the Corner podcast. St. John's Episcopal Church is located at the corner of Central and Greer in Memphis, Tennessee. Our parish website is www.stjohnsmemphis.org. You can also catch us on all of the normal social media platforms. You can join us for church at 10:30 on Sunday morning on our St. John's Memphis YouTube channel. Share the Good News podcast with somebody. And remember, you matter to God. Your life is not yours alone. Come see us sometime.